Welcome to this forum for candidates for Whatcom County Executive. I now turn this meeting over to the guidance of our moderator, Jill Bernstein, who will explain the evening's procedures.
Thank you, Minda, and good evening to everyone, to the candidates, to those in the audience here, and those who will be watching us through our media partners and who will be accessing this information on the League of Women Voters Bellingham-Whatcom County website. Tonight's forum is for candidates for Whatcom County Executive. There are two candidates on the ballot for this race, and I would like to introduce candidate Dan Purdy and candidate Satpal Sidhu. The Whatcom County Executive provides for an accountable and responsive county government by ensuring efficient, effective, and economical administration in accordance with the county charter, the Washington State Constitution, and other applicable federal, state, and local laws, as well as county policy. Duties include supervising all administrative offices and executive departments and appointing members to boards and commissions. Whatcom County Executive serves a 4-year term. We will follow specific rules for the debate. There will be no opening statements. Instead, the introductory question is tailored to elicit responses consistent with opening statements. Candidates will have 90 seconds or a minute and a half to respond to each question and will make a 1-minute closing statement. The order of questions and closing statements was decided by a dice toss earlier this evening. Each candidate has a challenge card. Candidates, show me your challenge cards. You have them. Excellent. Candidates may use this card to challenge or rebut their opponent's response. The challenging candidate will have 30 seconds to state the challenge, and his opponent will have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge. Each candidate may use their challenge card just one time. The timers seated behind me are Carol Como and Michelle Kopcha, who will be tracking the time. They're right here. And the timers will flash a yellow sign when 15 seconds remain and a red sign to signal time is up. If a candidate continues, a bell will be rung to signal stop talking, and we are serious about that. We ask that the candidates be respectful of the time allotted due to the limited amount of time that we have and our desire to include as many questions as possible. Audience, I would like to remind you to hold your applause until the conclusion of the forum. We encourage members of the audience to provide written questions for the candidates. These questions are not going to be directed to one individual, but rather will be asked of both candidates. Ushers are available to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners at the table on my right. And seated over there is League member Kathy Washaka, and she will be screening both for legibility and clarity and to avoid duplication. To begin this evening, candidate Sidhu will go first, and after the start, we will rotate which candidate responds to questions first, and candidate Sidhu will also lead the closing statements. So with the rules covered, let's get started. Timers, are you ready? Excellent. And at this time, the audience is welcome to begin submitting questions. Candidates, I'll remind you that you will each have 1.5 minutes to respond to the question. And our first question is, candidate Sidhu, what are the 2 or 3 things you are most committed to working on if you are elected?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for League of Women Voters to provide this opportunity to share our thoughts and ideas. There are many things that once you come to the office, it depends on what is on your hands right then. And I had the real example that I came into the office and COVID started. So all my plans were put in the back burner. But I do have some issues like housing, building the new jail, new building for the current jail, and mental health and behavioral health treatment services. So these are the 2 or 3 things that they are all related to each other, and they impact each other. So those are the things that which I have been working on last 4 years, but not to the extent that I could because of the COVID. And I think that I will continue to do that. I have some plans which have been put in place already, and they have worked, like tiny homes, like the triage center, and many others. And I'll continue to expand and strengthen those. Thank you.
And Candidate Purdy, the same question.
Thank you for the question, Jill. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for having us here tonight. You say just 2 or 3. May I give you more? My platform is based upon 4 main tenets that includes public safety, accountability and fiscal responsibility of government, reducing the cost of living, which is out of control for many of us, including our seniors and our vulnerable populations, and then more sensible environmental policies. A couple weeks ago, I launched what we call Dan's Plan. That's the 100-day plan, which includes, along those themes of the 4 I just stated, creating an actionable plan to tackle homelessness in Whatcom County, implementing a targeted crime prevention strategy, making it easier to do business in Whatcom County, improving the current safety conditions in our jail, reviewing Whatcom's permitting process, and then also establishing an emergency response fund. These are the 6 tenets of the first 100 days of my campaign.
Thank you. And the second question, we will begin with Candidate Purdy. But gentlemen, as I ask most of these questions, you're going to hear me repeat a word, which is specific. We're looking for some specifics to your answers. And the first question, Candidate Purdy, is the Whatcom County Department of Health and Community Services recently reported 1,059 unhoused people, which is an increase of 27% from the previous year. A third of those unhoused people live outside and in places not intended for human habitation. What specific programs do you support to address the needs of those 1,059 people living in our community?
I actually met with Erica this morning, and we talked through this. In addition to the 1,059, which was reported over the summer, there's also 2,500 people who we believe are couch surfing, living in cars, and are otherwise unsheltered. Homelessness is a multifaceted, complex problem. It requires a comprehensive approach and many solutions. It stems from a lack of affordable housing, poverty, substance abuse disorder, mental health challenges, and they all contribute to what Bellingham is experiencing right now. Whatcom County serves as a strategic partner to Bellingham, and in my belief, everyone succeeds when the number of people experiencing homelessness decreases and those receiving rehabilitation services increases. So to be specific, this will be a top priority throughout all 4 years of my term. So we'll balance public safety and responsible spending with a compassionately firm approach to homelessness. We'll fund the effective programs and increase the rehabilitation. When helping to place people into housing programs, they really need to receive comprehensive support, and this includes things like mental and behavioral health services, addiction treatment, job and life skills training.
Candidate Sidhu.
Thank you. I think that it is kind of shame for the most richest country in the world to have this problem because our priorities as national government, state government, that we have not paid attention. We can build an aircraft carrier every year, but we cannot take care of our homeless people, our people with drug issues and everything. But that's something, it highlights that this issue is not local Whatcom County issue or Washington State issue. This issue is a national issue and needs national resources to do that. But it doesn't mean that we at a local level don't do anything. We have done as so much that we had tiny homes. The county bought 50 tiny homes in 2020 and gave it to the city. That was our contribution. We had a base camp which housed over 200 people, and we continue to do that. And we are working to help the city right now to relocate some of the tiny homes at another 4-acre place. It has not decided fully yet, but we are willing to put another 50 tiny homes or 100 tiny homes to take care of that. But this is not the final solution. We need to do more. And I'll continue to do that over the next 4 years and find more ways to. Thank you.
And you'll hear the word specific in my next question as well, which is that the county executive is the head of the county's health board. If elected, what specific programs or policies would you propose to address the addiction crisis in our county? And that's candidate Sidhu?
Yes. Again, the statement I just made is again true for the mental health drug crisis. We have 15-year-olds dying for a $1 pill. I have asked this question several times. Do you find people walking around with a couple of ounces of uranium? No, we don't, because we control that. But we have failed as a nation to control the supply of drugs. Just last week, 10 days, 3 young residents of Lummi Nation passed away. Young people, under 20. That's a shame. But what can we do? We have to do is prevention. At our level, prevention and creating treatment problems. But this issue of drugs have to be stopped. This supply of drugs has to be stopped. So we have a drug task force. We are working with them. There have been several operations you must have seen in the newspapers, the capture of these drugs, and we will continue to reinforce, and we are asking Lummi Nation to join the drug task force to be more effective and find these drug homes and shut them down. And that's something I will really work with health department to take care of this one issue.
Candidate Purdy.
I just want to make one clarification to what my opponent had said. There were actually 4 overdoses on the Lummi Nation site. I don't want to minimize the impact of fentanyl on our community. And our heart breaks and goes out to the Lummi Nation as they mourn these losses. In terms of the specifics, addiction takes many forms. What's really important is that as a civilized society, we enforce the rule of law. We've known this for centuries. It's been our success as a nation. And as Americans, we should no longer tolerate our children, our family members, and our citizens, and our fellow man and woman injecting themselves with these poisons. I stand opposed to clean injection sites. I stand in favor of law enforcement being able to help people by either putting them through specific programs or by working with our mental health and behavioral health partners to get the addiction and substance abuse that they need. In speaking with all of the folks within the health department that I've been contacting, I'm finding that there's a common thread. When I spoke with NAMI today, I found out that there's different forms of mental illness, and a lot of people use escapism in the form of substances. We've got to support effective programs and then not fund the programs that are not effective.
The next question, Candidate Purdy, is that the county's climate goals include reducing the transportation-related greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030. What specific policies would you propose to achieve that goal?
Well, when I met with Les over at WTA, I learned that they're spending $950,000 on electric buses, and yet the PUD understands that we're not going to quite be able to use that on the electric grid. It's way too much too soon. I also learned that we're going to be implementing a $1.3 million power station to power those buses. Les tends to think that maybe hydrogen is a way to go for some of those vehicles. What I'm concerned about is that we need to not be distracted from the larger goal. The larger goal is that the people that are homeless, unsheltered, they're dying on the streets right now. Spring Creek behind Walmart is just absolutely decimated and polluted with human waste and filth. We have individuals who are completely disregarding our laws. And, here we are talking about the future, and we don't even have a plan for the present. And frankly, I think that's a failure of our present administration. We're too far out in the future, hoping and wishing and desiring, and we're not curbing the problems of today.
And candidate Sidhu,
Yeah.
same question.
In 2019, when I was running, I promised that Whatcom County will do a climate action plan because it was not done until 2005 or 6. It was ignored. So and I kept my promise. We issued a climate action plan. I promised that we will plant 1 million trees, and now there is an organization in Whatcom County. It's called Whatcom Million Tree Project, and they have done 285,000 trees already. And we have a specific, the climate action plan has been approved by the council, and there's a real money put behind this. We have complete inventory of all the county buildings and all the county fleet, and we have electrification plan, and we have the building electrification plan so that we can get away from GHG coming from the buildings. Now, this is something we want to start and create example for private businesses. We have sat down with the BP and P66 because they are one of the largest emissions in our county, and they already have their own plan to become net zero in 2050, and we are collaborating with them that how their plan can match with our plan so that our emission inventory can come down as well. Thank you.
And candidate Sidhu, what specific plans do you have to increase affordable childcare in Whatcom County? And how would you like to see the new funds from the 2022 initiative utilized?
Yes. Childcare became a real emergency during COVID because the schools were closed. Parents had problem going to work and the kids at home. It was a real emergency. So when we got the CARES Act dollars in 2020 and then $44 million in American Rescue Plan, the biggest investment we did was in childcare. $15 million we did to preserve all these spots, to give extra pay to the childcare workers so that they stay on the job. And we have a plan called Hub and Spoke, working with the Opportunity Council to expand the childcare spots in our county. We've been very successful, but this is not enough. We are still 3,000 to 4,000 spots short in our county. That's a lot. And we are working towards that now with this Healthy Children Fund levy passing. We will have additional funds at early childhood learning. We will be investing money. We have $10 million this year in 2023, and we'll have another $10 million in 2024. So we will be putting this in operational money because we still have some. Okay, thank you.
And candidate Purdy.
Just to put Prop 5 into perspective, we still are not spending the money that was originally collected. And I'm running on fiscal accountability, responsibility, and reduced cost of living. Prop 5 only passed by 20 votes. It was in this chamber in which it was a 5-1-1 vote with Councilmember Ellenboss rejecting and then Councilmember Byrd choosing to abstain. We pay almost $10 million annually for just this one tax. And it's more than enough to fund the right programs. We all care about our children. I've got 3 teenagers. I teach 30 teenagers every Saturday in life skills. We all care about our kids. That's not in question. What's in question is, in an effort to lower our costs, cuts just probably need to be made based on a redundancy of the services or an inefficient model to help save taxpayers some money even after Prop 5 is passed. This is a property tax, so those of you who are homeowners, they're charging 19 cents for every $1,000 in assessed value, and that's an annual total of $8.2 million. And I've never seen a government tax decrease. I've only seen them increase in my lifetime. It sometimes feels like a snake oil to me because the prop is supposed to fund child care, but that's vague. The preschool programs to prepare children for kindergarten and help homeless youth, but we haven't identified how. And then it talks about helping abused children, but which abused children? I don't think it's doing what it's supposed to do yet.
So Candidate Purdy, the next question begins with you. What specific initiatives or actions would you like to see the county's Racial Equity Commission take to improve racial equity for those living in Whatcom County?
I still can't believe in 2023 we have people, individuals, our BIPOC community that still feel like they are not getting a fair shake. I'm sworn to protect the U.S. Constitution, the state constitution, and the laws and the ordinances of Whatcom County in my role as county executive. And this is a problem. I am dedicated to making sure that this is a county where everyone has opportunity and that everyone thrives. We can't have people running around thinking that they're not getting their due, especially as it's guaranteed under their rights. So I want to hear more from community members and work together to move forward. I actually have 7 things that I'd like to see, Jill. The first is to address systemic racism in Whatcom County. I would like to focus on education reform. That means promoting school choice to empower parents and improve education in disadvantaged areas. Secondly would be criminal justice reform to ensure the fair treatment within the criminal justice system through sentencing reform and community policing. I believe in economic opportunity, so that means fostering job creation and entrepreneurship through lower taxes and reduced regulations. We need to reduce our government dependency. We need equal protection under the law, community engagement, and more fair housing policies. That means promoting access to affordable housing for everyone while protecting property rights.
And Candidate Sidhu.
I think this is not a made-up stuff. I think Mr. Purdy is trying to project that racial equity is something is made up and is not exist. It does exist. I'm the poster child for that. I am a minority. I was a minority in India. I have been a minority in here. I have lived here 37 years. And when I moved to this country from Canada, I was told, don't buy a house in London. Buy something outside of London. That's the legacy we have. We have a arch of healing and reconciliation right outside this chambers. So this is not a made-up stuff. It is real. You guys all know, I don't want to bring it up here, that in last election, my signs were defaced with N-word on it. So just saying that this does not exist, just ignoring that, I think that we worked very hard with the whole community. It's not that we want to hear from the community. We did hear from the community. We took a year and a half to build a racial equity commission. I think people are oblivious to this. They need to learn more. They need to actually contact the community and find out and then take action. And I did that. And I support that commission, and I think there are many ways this commission will work. I don't have time to explain. Thank you.
And again, looking for specifics, starting with Candidate Sidhu, how would you approach the competing goals of protecting the agricultural land base in Whatcom County and providing non-agricultural or residential development in rural areas. Please explain your position and provide any specific policies that you want to advance.
Yes. The first specific policy I want to advance, which is already in our comprehensive plan, is to preserve 100,000 acres of agricultural land. And I'm very committed to that preserve 100,000 acres of agricultural land. How do we stop building on agricultural land? I think one of the issues we have is most of the buildable land has already been built. All the lands which are left for housing within the cities, within UGAs, and out in the county, unincorporated area, have some hair on it, like either it's critical area or a wetland or a shoreline. So all these issues, and it's making it difficult to do that. So my specific policy is I'm going to propose that we should build 1,000-acre wetland bank so that we can mitigate that with net zero environmental impact and have those lands buildable. We cannot keep building on lands which are best agriculture soils. We have lands in the cities and UGAs which cannot be built because of wetlands and other environmental issues. But if we have off-site mitigation process, it takes a little time, but if we had started 15 years ago, we'd have it today. So I'm not going to lose that opportunity. I'm already starting on that. City of Bellingham has 200 acres, and I will have up to 1,000 acres of wetland bank so that we can solve this issue.
And Candidate Purdy.
So yes, Whatcom County has 100,000 acres of ag land. We have roughly 29,000 that are set aside for berries, and we are anywhere from 80 to 90% of the nation's exports of frozen raspberries and whatnot. I think it's important to balance our growing housing needs with farmer rights. And it's the golden question. Like, you know, both are such a large part of Whatcom's history, and we need to be pro-growth for new families, and those are the ones that are moving and living here. And we, at the same time, have to balance the fact that we have limited natural resources like water. The interests of our tribal partners need to be re-engaged and respected. We have to engage and collaborate with everyone at the table on this topic. And that includes building associations, agricultural communities, the tribal members. We need to remember that this is a high-demand area. We all chose to live here. Some of us were born here. But we need to manage how this will look into the future. The Growth Management Act is either a limiter to some views or it's an opportunity for other views. On Monday night, the Bellingham City Council had mentioned that they're going to use a school over on Cougar Run by Kellogg Road, and that actually takes away some of the affordable housing by replacing it with a school. So there's trade-offs that as a community, we all need to come together and talk through.
And Candidate Purdy, starting with you, whether or not the jail ballot initiative passes, we have immediate needs to house inmates and to deal with crime and the perception of a rise in crime in the community. What are your plans, whether or not a jail is built for the 4 years of the term that's coming up to manage or respond to this issue?
Would you repeat the question one more time?
I could, but I'd have to try. I'll work on it. Whether or not the jail ballot initiative passes, it's going to be, by most estimates, about 5 years before we have a new building, and at the earliest. Meanwhile, if you're elected during the 4 years of your term, what plans do you have for managing our needs to house an inmate population and to deal with the perceptions of a rise in crime and the lack of consequences in the community?
Thank you,
Did I
Jill.
do that okay?
It was great.
You got that?
You did a great job.
Okay.
Almost verbatim. So for those of you listening, please hear me. The new jail is pivotal to Whatcom County going forward. I really hope that you vote yes on this new initiative on the ballot in November. I was on the last tour on June 30th, and that was the last tour because there was an inmate an incarcerated person who actually broke out of a cell into the corridor, putting our Corrections Bureau staff at risk. There is an element of the population who would do us harm. And without the strong leadership that I would bring, we are going to continue to suffer in the community and have these spikes in crime. We need that jail, and there's several things that will have to happen in order to make sure that the conditions which are presently inhumane for both inmates, incarcerated persons, and our corrections staff, who, by the way, are incarcerated with them, are maintained. We've got black mold in food processing areas. We have overcrowding. The jail was only built for 148 beds, and the new jail is going to be roughly 400 to 440. And then in an April 24th article in the Cascadia Daily News, they thought maybe that 89% of the county officials would approve of a bed size of anywhere from 440 to 700 or more. It's important that we, if we don't have the new jail, that we spend money and time to renovate the existing conditions because it's uninhabitable for our existing human populations.
Candidate Sidhu.
I think one of the element of your questions is what are the specific things each one of us would do. I have worked very hard for the last 2 years to bring this situation, to put this thing on the ballot for the jail measure. It's been a very unique agreement and a great compromise. I think that we have tried, this is not something that we are afterthought now that jail is on the ballot, what would we do? We've been thinking last 3 years what we would do. Of course, COVID didn't allow us to do this. We have been in touch with Yakima. We have in touch with SCORE facility. We have in touch with Skagit County, that if they can use it, the city of Bellingham has already been using the SCORE facility for the last several months, probably a year. And we are working on that. And the thing is that how much money we can, again, it's your dollars. How properly we spend your dollars on this thing. We have instituted electronic home monitoring. We are working on that. We invested $6 million in 2021 from ARPA to clear the backlog in our court system, which was hiring attorneys for the prosecutor, hiring attorneys for the defender, and we consult with the judges what is the best way to use that money.
So, Candidate Sidhu, please share with us your ideas for clean economic development at Cherry Point.
I think Cherry Point is so stigmatized. That's the only place we look at for economic development. I think the economic development in Whatcom County can happen in many ways, but your question is about Cherry Point. I think that we need Lummi Nation to take the lead, and I have been working with them last 2 years to create a white paper so that what you think is acceptable to our community and to the Lummi Nation to build there. Because it's a culturally sensitive land, and we cannot just helter-skelter go build stuff there. So we have to have an agreement or collaboration with them, and they are willing to do that. We have been talking, some companies have been talking about hydrogen plant, large-scale hydrogen plant. And we know the Green Apple project was here when I became county executive, and we have working together with them. What I'm thinking is we need to see that the buildable industrial lands, our inventory is very little. We need to start thinking of how we can zone more industrial land for next 25 to 30 years in our county so that we can keep growing our businesses. Because if we live here, we want a house, affordable house, but at the same time, we need a job. We cannot just live here and not have a job. Thank you.
And Candidate Purdy.
Cherry Point represents a unique opportunity for Whatcom County for many reasons. And it's not just a couple of refineries. There are many industries out there, including light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, and other industrials. What's important about BP Cherry Point, other than the fact that it's what drew me here from Phoenix, you've been to Phoenix in the summer, I assume. What's interesting about Cherry Point Refinery is that it's only one of 5 sites globally that has been nominated by the company in order to blend their Jet A fuel with tallow. And that could potentially be $1 to $1.5 billion in investment in that facility and in our community. We need more better jobs. We need family livable wage jobs. We don't need more retail, and we certainly don't need more service-oriented jobs. We need to be able to attract better family dynamics here to the area that are living off of these trades. This is where the growth is of our country rather. It's going to be the growth of Whatcom County. Under my opponent's leadership, we lost Alcoa, which was a huge loss. We've got all kinds of issues going on in terms of remediation and other projects out there. These are really good stewards of the land that they have in addition to our farmers, and we need to respect the fact that they need reduction in permitting in order to do more for our families and the communities in which they serve.
So starting with candidate Purdy, do you think that the county should or should not be investing in supportive housing for the mentally ill and the addicted, and why?
I'm in favor of the supportive housing for the mentally ill and the addicted because it plays into the overarching theme of what Whatcom County needs at this point in time. The way that we do this is critical because we have very poor examples right now in 22 North. I receive an email every other day from concerned citizens with video, with other elected officials. I'm presently unelected, but we have other folks that are on those emails that are just unresponsive to the challenges that local businesses face, other citizens, in terms of the issues that are happening behind Walmart. We just do not have, as a county or as a city of Bellingham, we do not have a handle on these crises, and these folks need specific health and mental health and behavioral health programs. It's the types of programs and it's the way that we go about it, however. And I think that we need to bring community partners together and really create a roadmap. That's one thing that's lacking in every conversation that I have. We do not have an overarching strategic plan on how we get there. Everyone is operating in a fractional sense. They're doing their own thing. The HIPAA laws, the rhetoric is such that we can't share files from one service agency to another, which is completely untrue. And we have to create a network and a system that actually works, and that is the job of the county executive.
And candidate Sidhu?
Yeah. I think we do have a comprehensive plan. I think that Mr. Purdy need to study a little more about these things than before making statements. We cannot put all unhoused people into one group. There are several different groups of people who need different types of help. I think that 22 North, we need 5 of 22 Norths. That yes, they are having issues. And the issues actually resulted when there was COVID. We have to keep them separate and so many other issues. There's only one overcrowded place. We need like 5 of them. So that, but we have to be selective that who are the people who need to be in that place and need that particular help, and who are the other people who need other type of help. And that's why we are investing $9 million in Way Station. This is especially unhoused people. They can come, stay there for a week. They can wash their laundry. They can get their meds. They can connected with the services. All this thing can happen. And this is an example. We started it. We thought it would take us 7-8 years. Sorry.
So the next question, we will begin with you again, candidate Sidhu. Significant amounts of plastic waste pollute our land and sea. Now we're learning from agencies like the CDC of the adverse health effects from plastic chemicals and from the World Bank that plastic contributes to global warming. What would you do in the next 4 years as county executive to reduce the flow of plastic into our county and its landfills?
I think just county executive to stop plastic is a little bit overstated. We have done plastic bags, but when the materials are coming from all over the nation, your laundry detergent is coming. It's not being produced in Whatcom County. And same thing, all the goods you go and receive is coming from other places, and we are faced with this. It is just one example. I think what we can do is strengthen our recycling. What we really need to do, and I can tell you what the people have done for waste oil from your car, is cradle to grave. The oil companies were, and this is back in 1995 or something in that year, they said, if you sell a gallon of lube oil, you have to pick up that gallon. And you have never seen problem about waste oil anymore in our community because all of it is recycled because they charge you 10 cents when you buy the new oil. Then they are obligated to take it cradle to grave. So you will never see waste oil in our communities, which is being sprayed on our dirt roads. We need that kind of action, but that action cannot come from Whatcom County. That has to be a national action. I think we do not have priorities. You know what is going on in the federal government right now. Your and my work is not getting done.
And Candidate Purdy.
There's a demand for recyclables, for different types of plastics. I shop at Costco every Sunday because I need to keep a track on how much an egg costs and how much a loaf of bread costs, and of course a gallon of milk. And so I'll be there every Sunday. I'll see you there. What's important to me about the specific things, I think it comes down to potable drinking water. We don't want our waterways to be polluted. And a lot of people, of course, are concerned about Lake Whatcom Reservoir. I'm concerned because we obviously have phosphorus that seeps in, and it's been a huge concern of the population here. We've had citizens call in, and the Cascadia Daily News has done an entire spread on it. From my perspective, the goal is to preserve our potable water reservoir, and clearing that of plastics is one way in which we can do that. We spent a lot of time on the watershed, and we have 25 tributaries coming into the Lake Whatcom, and so we spent a lot of time doing stormwater, best management practices, culverts, and so on, but we're not addressing what's happening in the lake. So the first thing that I would do there is I would advocate for underwater chemical treatments or mechanical apparatus to address the phosphorus in those legacy sediments, because that's what's going to impact us the most. In addition to that, we need to fund effective watershed projects, maintenance, outreach, and education, of course, and then homeowner mitigations. And then we also need to have the county's potential acquisition of key watershed buffer lands.
And this will be our last question, and we will begin with Candidate Purdy. What measures do you believe the county should take to support family farmers in Whatcom County?
We are about to experience a massive shift in Whatcom County, and not many people are paying attention. There is a water rights adjudication coming, and it's going to be the Department of Ecology basically suing the county, and we'll have 24,000 defendants. This is going to pit neighbor against neighbor, farmer against farmer, and it's going to completely change our fabric and our patchwork quilt of a society. My opponent is in favor of the water rights adjudication. He thinks that his water solutions table has worked. It has not. Our farmers need water in order to produce our crops. Our industries need water to produce their products and to create jobs. We are now no longer talking about surface water. We're talking about groundwater, which is the first time in our history that this is going to be adjudicated. This is going to be a colossal mess for our county. The Yakima Basin took almost 35, 40 years to be adjudicated. We feel or sense that it's going to be just as much here. The comparison there is that they were a high plains desert, whereas here we have water under our feet. We don't have a water problem. We actually have a timing issue with water. I feel that the water rights adjudication is going to be the biggest impact to farmers, and you will see them closing down farms and not being able to sustain for generations if this action goes through.
And candidate Sidhu?
I would like to say that the fear mongering does not work. Every problem has a solution. Yakima took 40 years. They don't understand that. And all the farmers know this. All the farmers mean farming leaders. That they fought for 35 years, like Mr. Purdy is suggesting that we should fight in courts, tens of millions of dollars. And then they got together. In 5 years, they solved the problem. Adjudication did not take 40 years. The fight took 40 years. And Mr. Purdy is suggesting we should start the fight and not collaboration. He has made statements that he's not a collaborator. He wants to dictate things. Adjudication, ecology is not suing farmers per se. The processes, the tribes have been trying for 25 years to have the adjudication process done. They went to the legislature. Legislature passed the adjudication should be done. And ecology is the department who is going to do the adjudication. So don't spread wrong information to people. It's scaring people. And what they are doing is the process is they have to send a legal notice, so they have to go to the courts. The court sends legal. Ecology is not a court. So they have to go to the courts. They can send a legal system. Please come back and prove your water rights.
And we have a challenge.
Thank you.
Candidate Purdy, you'll have 30 seconds to state your challenge, and candidate Sidhu, you'll have 30 seconds to respond.
The water rights adjudication process is about seniority of rights. We all know that the Lummi tribe is going to go back to the 1855 Elliott Treaty. My question for candidate Sidhu is, how do you explain to all of the residents that you're sworn to listen to their issues, their complaints, and their concerns? How do you go back to them and tell them that it's okay that they've got to go find these documents and they've got to prove their rights on land that they acquired years and years ago? How do you justify that or square that?
Adjudication has not been filed yet, and this is a legitimate question that people over the last 100 years may not have documentation and state may not document. But this is not a blind process like he's saying. If you can't find a piece of paper, you're out of luck and you're going to have to sell your farm. That's what is fear-mongering. It didn't happen in Yakima. Nobody lost their properties. Nobody lost their farms. Why we are saying that we lose farms in here? Thank you.
And now it's time for our closing statements. And candidate Sidhu, you'll have 1 minute to make a closing statement.
Thank you very much. I just want to say that I came to this country with $5 50 years ago, but 3 degrees. And I have, whatever I am, is something given to me by this country. And as a payback to my community, I took upon myself in my retirement to take upon this thing, because being politician is not a popular thing. And I think this is one of the ways that you can serve your community. And that's what I've been doing. There are a lot of discouragement, a lot of comments and things, but that should not stop me to continue to serve my community. And I have taken very strong actions in my last 4 years, and so a lot of initiatives. I would like to get your support to continue that work for next 4 years. Thank you.
And candidate Purdy, your 1 minute closing.
If you look at the data, if you look at the evidence, the state of Washington and the county of Whatcom feels that the county is going in the wrong direction. Public safety, government fiscal accountability, reduction in the cost of living, more sensible environmental policies, these are the things that are going to help us get ahead. My opponent had 4 years to solve it as county executive. And by the way, he had another several years prior to that when he was sitting on the council. A vote for him is a vote for the status quo. I believe that Whatcom County can be where it ought to be. We shouldn't be doing things half-baked. We should be thinking in terms of how can we excel, how can we exceed, how can we show the other 38 counties in Washington State that we're doing things right. We don't even have the basic technology in our systems. We're using DOS-based programs in our departments that he oversees.
Thank you both. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, most sincerely, I want to thank each of you for being here today and for your interest in running for public office and serving the community. Voters can find more information about the candidates online at vote411.org and in your voter pamphlet. Ballots will be mailed on October 18th of 2023. That's coming up very soon. Your ballot must be postmarked or in a ballot drop box before 8:00 p.m. on November 7th, 2023. And please remember to sign the ballot envelope. And if mailing by postal service, we recommend mailing early. Again, thank you from the League of Women Voters. Good night.